In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Now get set again.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Websites ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360. 227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7, and they are all .coms. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the Garden State of New Jersey, Anna Little. Anna, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Glad to be with you, Rick.
Great to have you with us, Anna. And Anna, you know, I've got a bug. I've got a bug up my beehive, or whatever you want to call it. And since you're an immigration attorney, can I dump on you a little bit, please?
Sure, go right ahead.
I was just mentioning on our last show, Frontiers of Freedom, Hour of Action, how I was denied the opportunity to register in a hotel in Richmond, Virginia, a Comfort Inn, Quality Inn, one of those chains, because they demanded photo ID. And as photo ID produced a U.S. passport, they would not accept that as photo identification. Also, as you know, in the state of New Jersey, to get a driver's license, you have to present certain documentations, and you need 6 of these documentations, or the 6-point ID system: a birth certificate, marriage certificate, utility bills, U.S. passport, current New Jersey photo driver's license, an ATM card with a name and signature, a credit card bill not less than 90 days old. But yet, Anna, this is just to get a driver's license in the state of New Jersey. As you know, you can go nowhere anymore and be admitted without some sort of photo ID. Now, Anna, a lot of this was the result of 9/11. You can't get on an airplane without going through x-rays and visions and inspections and all sorts of identification. But yet, Anna, this government, this administration is about to let hundreds of thousands of people into this country from Syria that we know nothing about. It has let millions of people cross our border who we know nothing about. And I'm mad because I am a citizen of the United States, but I do not have the rights and privileges that these other people have that are coming here legally and illegally. Thanks for listening.
Well, I can't disagree with you. I mean, frankly, I don't see any reason to have anything but a secure border. You're not a sovereign nation without a secure border. There are a multitude of reasons for that. I think the far left tries to incendiate the rhetoric on this by demonizing those who want the border secured and translating or twisting the reasons for wanting a secure border, safety and human rights and the like, into some kind of attack on the immigrant population, whether they're legally or illegally present in the United States. And that is not what is going on. There are 2 issues. There is the illegal immigration issue, but there is also the need for a secure border for a multitude of reasons. So I think we've got to debunk the rhetoric on the left and dismiss it as rhetoric, which is what it is, and an untruth. And then we've got to focus on our own messaging, which is we are the United States of America. We do not tolerate criminal trafficking in human beings across our borders. We do not allow let's say, the objectification of women and children, the forced employment without wages, slave labor of people of all gender and all ages by criminals who make money, tens of thousands per head, for these people to cross the border allegedly illegally to find the land of milk and honey, only to be imprisoned when they get here because they quote-unquote owe money to the criminal. So we can't tolerate that kind of thing at our border. Then there's our own safety with terrorism on the loose, worldwide, global terrorism. So, I mean, we can't allow the left to control the rhetoric on this. We cannot be intimidated by their twisting untruths on this subject. We need to stand firm in our positions. We need to make sure our message gets out. And as far as immigration law, we've got one on the books. I keep repeating myself like a broken record here. Somebody with 23 years experience. There's an immigration law on the books promulgated by we the people through our representatives. It's never been fully implemented. And some of the administrative time periods that it takes for applications to be processed, you don't need new law for that. You just need to make affirmative applications possible where they used to be and are no more. You need to make the processing times reasonable. You need to get the word to the folks back in the home country how to get in legally and the dangers of using a coyote and what goes on, and expose that. And then we just need secure borders. It's the way of life nowadays.
I agree with that. And, we hear this mantra, we need to update our immigration laws. We don't need to upgrade our immigration laws. We need to, as you say, enforce our laws. And I would make one change to the immigration law, okay? I would put a $250,000 fine on anyone who hires anyone that is here illegally. I would make it a $250,000 fine. And by the way, I've upped this from $100,000. I would make it a $250,000 fine to anyone who rents or sells a house or a place to live to anyone that is here illegally. Anna, that would stop this. It would stop this, Anna. These people would go home on their own. We wouldn't have to supply buses or planes or anything. This would stop people from coming here. The people that are here illegally will go home.
Well, I think you have a point. I think there are so many of those folks here, Rick, that a mass exodus is probably unrealistic.
It's
forced or not. I do think folks would go home if the money dried up. That's for sure.
The money dried up. If they had nowhere to go, Anna, they would go home.
Yeah,
is a mass exodus possible?
It's hard to affect that because people who meet other folks, whether they're legally here or not, you sympathize for the individual, you sympathize for the family.
Yeah,
and
my sympathy tank is empty.
To leave someone homeless is probably unrealistic.
Well, I'm sorry, Anna. My sympathy tank is empty.
It's empty. Well, it's either empty or it's overfull.
Hey, Anna, it's time for break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And we are coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7, and they are all .coms. A couple other .coms for you: CCRShow.com and CCRSNetwork.com, our websites. And today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away, Anna and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 7 on on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You're right, Congressman West. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our shows, check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrsshow or cc.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. You could also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. You don't need to download anything. You don't need an app. Just call that number, 832-999-1199. And why don't we go over our list of guests? I kind of took some of your time with my little rant at the beginning of the show. Then we'll find out what's on your radar screen. But who will we be talking with today, Anna?
Well, at the 305 segment, I get to speak with one of our favorite guests, Hans von Spakovsky. He's an authority on a wide range of issues that includes civil rights, civil justice, First Amendment, immigration, rule of law, and government reform. He's a senior legal fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. And his analysis and commentary have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Washington Times. The list goes on. He is also a co-author with John Fund of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, and their latest book, which is Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. And Hans von Spakovsky is going to speak to us today about his article in the Daily Signal, published yesterday, which is entitled, Does Allowing Non-Citizens to Be Counted in Redistricting Violate One Person, One Vote Standard? I think that's a very interesting question, and I can't wait to talk with Hans von Spakovsky.
I would like to know where this is going on. I think that's a violation of our Constitution.
Well, you certainly should not be counting folks who can't vote if you're going to be redistricting based on registration. So we have to talk with him about this. This seems very, very good question.
Yes.
And then in the second segment, which begins at 4:05, we're going to talk with a doctor, Dr. Jane M. Orient. She's been in solo private practice since 1981. She's executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, that's AAPS. She's currently president of Doctors for Disaster Preparedness, And since 1988, she's been the chairman of the Public Health Committee of the Pima County, Arizona Medical Society. She's an author, Your Doctor Is Not In, Healthy Skepticism About National Health Care, and a second through fourth editions of Sapira's Art and Science of Bedside Diagnosis. She's also authored some school children's level books, Professor Klugemkoff's Spelling Method, and 2 novels published as Kindle Professor Klugemkoff's Old-Fashioned English Grammar Books, Neomorts and Moonshine, and she's the editor of the AAPS News. It goes on and on. She's going to come on today to talk about the fact that candidates need to do something now and that we can't wait until 2017. And this is on the subject, of course, of many topics, but Obamacare, obviously, she's a doctor. And then on our third segment, which begins at 4:35, we're going to speak with Robert Knight, a senior fellow and policy expert, and also who had been a journalist for 15 years, including 7 as the editor and writer at the Los Angeles Times. He's a regular columnist weekly for the Washington Times, Town Hall, One News Now. He was a media fellow in 89 to 90 at the Hoover Institute, and he's held senior positions with Heritage, Family Research Council, Concerned Women for America, Media Research Center, Coral Ridge Ministries, which is now known as Truth in Action. He's authored 5 books, co-authored another book, and written hundreds of reports and articles. He's been on almost all major TV and radio news and talk programs. And he's coming on today to talk about Bernie's siren song of socialism. And, of course, Bernie is Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a potential presidential opponent on the left. So he's certainly a candidate for the nomination right now on the Democratic ticket.
All right, great show lined up. And Anna, what's on your radar screen today?
Well, of course, I have my favorite topics, so I'll start with Planned Parenthood. There's a 10th video that's been released. They have released it in the midst of this effort to try to defund Planned Parenthood during the budget cycle in Congress. There seems to be a comment by the Senate president that or that we cannot do so without a pro-life president. But I don't think it matters. I think you stand up for your principles, whether or not you think the president will sign into law whatever you pass. It's not your job to second-guess what the executive branch will do. It's your job to put the voice of the people forward. So that's where I am on the defund effort. And certainly, listeners, we need to see you blogging and writing about this. But also, this 10th video, I find it at lifenews.com, and it's the 10th video, catches Planned Parenthood. We sell fresh, aborted baby eyes, hearts, and they also say gonads. So, it's just barbaric.
Yes.
Dollars cannot go to this organization. They're profitable as they are. It was founded by Margaret Sanger, a racist and a eugenist. This is just ridiculous. So
I don't know why these people aren't in jail, Anna. I don't know why they're not in jail.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch quickly on the refugee situation. As an immigration attorney, I can't help but be attracted to the word refugee, and I've been watching what's going on. I think Syria's leaders, the president Bashar Assad, said it the best here. It's not whether or not Europe accepts or embraces these refugees. It's not about dealing with the cause. If you don't like refugees, stop supporting terrorists.
Amen.
Says it like it is. So I think we need to get our heads on straight. And, of course, there's a humanitarian nightmare with these refugees. Germany has reported, where did I see that? There was an article reporting that there's some rapes going on inside a refugee camp by Muslim men, and the women are afraid to be undressed at night. They don't want to walk to the bathroom at night. They're trying to make sure they're accompanied by a man. It's a logistical nightmare.
Well, Germany has stopped accepting these people. And, Anna, it's a real joke who's coming, who these refugees are.
Oh, yeah, I know.
87% are men, 5% are women, 4% are children. I mean, come on, Anna.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So we also have to keep our eyes on Ukraine because no one talks about Ukraine, and there's so much going on. So, Russia's not backing up. 23 hours ago in Reuters, there was an article entitled "Europeans Are Not Grasping the Importance of Ukraine." The Washington Post 6 hours ago published an article, "Who Lost Ukraine?" So we've got to definitely be watching what's going on there. I think we're not lobbying our leaders strongly enough to do something about Russia over there. And I know other countries in Eastern Europe are very concerned, Poland being number one on the list besides Ukraine. So we've got to step up and do our duty over there for our allies, and we cannot allow Russia to reestablish the Soviet Union, which is what I think their end goal would be. So there we are.
Well, to do all that, Anna, we have to have some leadership, and right now we don't.
This is right. This is right. And the good news is we live in the United States of America. We don't have to have a bloody revolution like our founding fathers did. We just need to get with the program of vote. And we've got to fight voter fraud. And if we do those three things, then we can go ahead and get the leadership we need. All right, damage has been done, but we have hope that we can turn it around. And remember, in this country, the people really are in charge. And if things aren't going right, we have no one to look for but ourselves. So,
you're right, Anna. The damage has been done. My question to you is, do you think enough damage has been done to wake up the half of the population that doesn't seem to care or doesn't think that there can be anything done about it?
I don't know. I'm hoping so. I mean, look, we had an uprising to take back the House of Representatives in 2010. We took back the Senate in 2012, and here we are going into the 2016 presidentials. I mean, it should be the next logical conclusion should be we the people take back the presidency in 2016. And I think at this point we are seeing that movement being represented very well in the media with Trump, and then with isn't it Dr. Carson, right? Ben Carson.
Yep.
Second, I believe. So what we're seeing played out on national media in the preliminaries to the primary on the Republican side is that there is a grassroots movement which has gained momentum, and they're going for anybody but that politician that wants to run on his record. They don't want to hear that. They want somebody who's an independent thinker, somebody who's not touchable by the political powers that be. It shows that the grassroots within the Republican Party, those who are active enough to be involved this early, they've had it with the leadership, and they want their voices to be represented in their government. I'm encouraged by that, Rick. I don't know if it's enough. I hope it is.
I hope it is too, Anna. Hey, Anna, we're up against a break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and yours truly, Rick Trader. Coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly. Around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They're.all.com. Check out our website, CCR and ccrsnetwork.com. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Does allowing non-citizens to be counted in redistricting violate one person, one vote standard?
Morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions double performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Or mornings at 9 Eastern Standard Time, log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is with us, and the honor of the introduction is mine. Hans von Spakovsky is an authority on a wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, the First Amendment, immigration, the rule of law, and government reform. A senior legal fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, his analysis and commentary have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, Politico, Human Events, National Review Online, and Town Hall. Along with John Fund, he's the co-author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, and the latest book, Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. Hans, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Well, Anna, thanks for having me back.
Oh, we're always excited to talk with you. You're such an expert on all these topics, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this latest article of yours. I think you published it yesterday in the Daily Signal, and the title is A Good Question. Does allowing non-citizens to be counted in redistricting violate one person, one vote standard? Now, Hans, I thought redistricting was dealing with registered voters, not the general population. Am I right?
Well, no. Actually, this particular case, which arose out of Texas, the Texas legislature, when they were redrawing the state Senate districts, and this is what most states do, they were actually using total population. They weren't using citizen voting age population or registered voters. They used the total population in drawing their district boundaries. And as a result of that, of course, total population includes lots of people who aren't eligible to vote, and particularly in places like Texas and New York, lots of people who aren't even U.S. citizens.
Well, Hans, I think even generally and academically that seems to beg a question of whether we are following that one man or one person, one vote standard. But don't the immigrant populations fluctuate from one district to another? I mean, couldn't there be a heavier immigrant population in one area than there is in another, since, we have these sanctuary cities in some counties and some states, and I don't know, it just seems like a disproportion among population, and representation really is attributable more to the voters, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And in fact, that's what's going on in this case. And look, in this case, which is now before the Supreme Court, two residents of Texas sued because they live in rural areas. And the large number of ineligible voters, particularly very large numbers of illegal aliens, they cluster in urban areas. And as a result of that, the rural Senate districts that the plaintiffs are in this case have a far larger number of voters than the districts in urban areas. In fact, I think the differential is anywhere between 30 and 40% between these rural districts and the urban districts. And what that means is that, and this is the claim they make in the case, their vote is diluted and is only worth about, anywhere from 1/2 to 1/3 of the value of the votes of people in these urban districts. Look, if you live in a district that has 100,000 voters and somebody else lives in a district with 50,000 voters, obviously your vote is only half the value of the people in that other district. And that's what happens when you're including non-citizens to make up the difference of whatever the ideal population is supposed to be for each district.
Okay, so how can we, shouldn't we be using voting records, perhaps, to judge the size of a voting district based on the number of people registered to vote, regardless of party affiliation, registered to vote in a particular district, rather than using the census population? Why aren't we doing it that way?
Just because look, that is one way to do it, but local jurisdictions and states aren't doing it that way. Now, in some places, look, that's very deliberate. And let me give you an example of what I mean. We actually had an event at the Heritage Foundation today talking about this, and one of the folks we had there speaking was Sean Trendy. Sean Trendy is a political analyst from Real Clear Politics. And he pointed out that, for example, in the state of New York, the Democratic state Senate districts that are many of them in New York City, they have a much larger number of non-citizens there than the districts or rural areas of New York City. And look, Democrats certainly don't want to change the way that kind of redistricting is done, because look, if you have to even out the populations of these districts according to citizenship, you know what will happen right now is Democrats will lose seats.
Oh, I see. So it's politics at play here. I guess I'm not surprised that it does become more clear there. But, I want to go back to the basis for this one person, one vote standard. You stated right here in your article, it's the Equal Protection Clause. And that's
Right.
part of the 14th Amendment. And it sure seems that you're supposed to be drawing districts on a basis that will ensure that equal numbers of voters can vote for proportionally equal numbers of officials. So it really is all about the voters. I mean, we're trying to keep the integrity of an election process. That's what it's about. So I don't see that it's compliant with that equal protection clause if you're including non-voters in the analysis. Now,
Look,
certainly give me the benefit of your expertise.
No, Anna, look, you are exactly right. If you follow the logic of the Supreme Court in the way it originally talked about the one-person, one-vote standard, then this is an easy case. But the problem is the courts haven't done that. There have been prior challengers that have tried to raise this argument. They've always lost in the courts. The Supreme Court itself has basically ignored this problem up until now, and only now are they finally going to decide whether it's okay for states to include non-citizens when they are doing redistricting. They basically, the courts have not ruled that way, and the U.S. Supreme Court has never ruled on it.
Well, Hans, I'm very interested in this, and we've got to do a break for station identification. Can you hold on for just 2 minutes?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks so much. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all.com. And now you can listen to our show anytime on our website, CCRS Network, and CCRShow.com. We'll be right back with Hans von Spakovsky and One Vote after the break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go, heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking this segment with Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. He's written an article, is published in the Daily Signal, and it's talking about the one-person, one-vote standard and what happens when redistricting includes non-citizens or people ineligible to vote. And it seems here that about, Hans, 50 years ago or so, the U.S. Supreme Court did establish a one-person, one-vote standard, and that by including these non-citizens and these people who are ineligible to vote even by their voting age, that we might be diluting that. And that's the thrust of the argument here. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right. And in fact, I'm actually hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule on behalf of the challengers if they really want to uphold the one-person, one-vote principle the way it was originally created, really, by the Supreme Court.
Well, I think this issue goes pretty central to our form of life, our way of governing ourselves. I mean, you can't have government for and by the people if you don't have the vote in its the voting process in an integrity where it can't be questioned. And I think this is one of the ways, this dilution. You also have voter fraud issues, but these, I think, are really central to our way, our form of government.
Yeah, no, I agree, but one of the problems we have is I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to rule on this. Basically, they accepted this case past summer. It's going to be argued at some point in the new term of the Supreme Court, which starts at the beginning of October. So we don't know yet when they're going to argue, but I can tell you already that groups like La Raza, MALDEF, which is the Mexican-American Legal Defense Fund, all of them are they're almost hysterical in their concern over this because they don't like the idea that the court might actually rule in favor of the challengers here.
That's very interesting. And, just as a side note, in your article, you do state that there are demographers that have filed an amicus brief, and they're saying that data about citizen voting age population is readily available. Not only is it available, but it's being used by the Census Bureau through the American Community Survey, and it's also in use by the Justice Department and other federal, state, and local government agencies. So there doesn't seem, in my layman's analysis, it doesn't seem to be all that difficult to follow the voter registration situation, and certainly voting age, if you want to go away from the actual registration. So very, very interesting topic. Hans, my producer has a number of questions for you. I think you know him, Rick Trader. So, Rick, take it away.
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation. Hans, I see so many problems with this. My head is spinning. First of all, when you're talking about non-citizens, it seems to me that it's very problematic that this group of people are very transient and could be actually counted multiple times.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I'll tell you something that's not an issue in this case, but is an issue is, remember, every 10 years after the census, we do reapportionment. In other words, based on the census, we determine how many members of Congress each state gets.
Right.
And when reapportionment is done, that reapportionment is done based on total population, which includes non-citizens. And that means states with large numbers of people who are here illegally, so that's places like Texas, California, also New York, they actually get more members of Congress than they really should.
And they also get a disproportionate amount of government help and subsidy.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because, yes, that data is also when they're divvying up federal money.
One more question, Hans, and I'll throw you back to Anna. Where else in the world are non-citizens counted as citizens?
Well, we're one of the only countries that does that. We're one of the only countries, an issue that's been brought up by Donald Trump, and it's been a big debate recently, is birthright citizenship. We're one of the only countries in the world that provides birthright citizenship.
With that, I'll hand it back to you, Anna.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the legal process here, Hans. It seems like the challengers are actually asking the court now to overturn a lower court decision that ruled against them.
Yes.
And it wants this court to actually hold that this including of the non-citizens in the analysis when you're counting to redistricting, that does violate the one-person, one-vote standard. What's puzzling me, Hans, is how is it that the lower court ruled against them?
Well, because the courts have followed this long trend of basically telling the states, it's up to you to decide which population to use. Now, normally, look, I'm a big believer in states' rights, but it was the Supreme Court that 50 years ago said the Equal Protection Clause, requires one person, one vote, and if states can pick whatever population they want, well, then that standard, one person, one vote, is meaningless.
Yeah. So you're saying that the lower court didn't necessarily say there was a violation of the one person, one vote standard, but the lower court decided it was the state's job to figure out which population, and so then you can't challenge it because the state has the right to make that decision. I don't know. How do you protect constitutional rights if you've got state rights that kind of override them?
Well, that's exactly the problem there. But the other problem is that's not what all the courts have done. I mean, that's what the court did here. But look, there are other courts that have held. There's an earlier case from some years ago by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Remember, the Ninth Circuit is considered the most liberal appellate court in the country. It has lots of judges from California, and they ruled founders in a very similar case because they interpreted the one person, one vote standard to mean equality of representation, not equality of votes. And so they therefore were saying, well, even people who aren't citizens and aren't eligible to vote are entitled to representation. But that's not what the one person, one vote standard means. That's not what the Supreme Court originally said. So the Ninth Circuit, I think, was wrong. But the Supreme Court is, like I said, they've never ruled on this issue.
Yeah, and I think it was actually brought up by Justice Clarence Thomas in 2001. Again, I'm referring to information I'm getting from your article. Another case out of Texas, but he had dissented from the court's refusal to hear that case, saying that the court didn't finish its job. It never defined that relevant population that states and localities have to use to equally distribute among their districts. And you mentioned the Ninth Circuit, so I want to point out that in your article there's information here about that too. It says this Judge Alex Kaczynski, again in a dissent, stated that at the core of the one person, one vote is the principle of electoral equality, not equality of representation. And, I think, Hans, we need to talk about that briefly here. We're not saying that government doesn't provide services to folks who aren't eligible to vote. I mean, every child has rights, human rights and citizen rights, that the states and the federal government have to respect. And so they're represented by the elected officials and some appointed officials, and their rights are provided for, their needs are provided for wherever the government has obligation to do so. So we're not saying don't help folks that can't vote. But when you're talking about the integrity of an electoral process, it's all about the voters, right? Because it's the voters who get a chance to speak. So talk to us about the difference there.
No, that is exactly right. One person, one vote is about the value of a person's vote. That doesn't mean that my kids, my younger kids who aren't eligible to vote. It doesn't mean that they're not entitled to government services and that representatives should look out for their interests. But when it comes to my going into the polling booth to vote, my vote can't be devalued in relation to others. And I'll give you the most extreme example of this. The way the law is now, if a state wanted to, for example, state Senate districts, and they put only one voter in one district and put 99,000, let's say these are districts with 100,000 people. They put one voter in one district, and they put 99,000 people who aren't eligible to vote, including illegal aliens, in that same district. But in the neighboring district, they put in 100,000 voters. Well, under the way the current rules go, that would be okay.
Yeah, that's totally not okay.
No, and hopefully the court will say that's not okay.
Yeah, I think it needs to, and I'm glad to see that Clarence Thomas brought it to the court's attention back in 2001. Maybe they'll actually address that this time. You know, time flies, Hans, when we're having fun. I've got to wrap you up, so tell us where our listeners can follow you, and certainly plug your latest article or whatever's coming up next.
Sure. They can find my publications at heritage.org, and you know, I'm not quite sure what my next publication is going to be, but that's where they can see everything that I've published recently.
So you're going to leave us in suspense, and we'll all have to keep checking Heritage. Well, it's been great speaking with you, and I hope that you'll come back to Conservative Commando soon and keep up the great work.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Listeners, that was Hans von Spakowski, and we are ending this segment, so we've got to go to a break. Listeners, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CCR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all .com. And now you can listen to our show anytime on our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Rick Trader and Anna Little will be right back with you after the break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton. For freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. For mornings at 9 a.m., check out LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. This segment, we're speaking with Jane Orient, M.D., She's Dr. Jane Orient. She's been in solo private practice since 1981 and has served as the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, AES, and she is currently president of Doctors for Disaster Preparedness. Since 1988, she's been chairman of the Public Health Committee of Pima County, Arizona Medical Society. She's the author of Your Doctor Is Not In, Healthy Skepticism About National Health Care, and the 2nd through 4th editions of Sapira's Art and Science of Bedside Diagnosis. She's authored books for school children, Professor Klugemoff's Spelling Method, and Kindle, Professor Klugemoff's Old-Fashioned English Grammar books, Neomorts and Moonshine. And she's the editor of AAPS News, Doctors for Disaster Preparedness newsletter, and Civil Defense Perspectives, and she's the managing editor of the Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons. Dr. Orient, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
It's always great to be on your show.
Well, thank you. We're happy to have you here. We're excited to talk to you about this article that candidates need to do something now and that we can't wait until 2017. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the country is in a crisis right now, and we don't have time for candidates to promise what they're going to do on day one when they get to the White House, because all kinds of damage can continue to occur to our country between now and then, and by then it may be too late. And anyway, it's Congress who is in charge of making the laws. The president is really deceiving himself if he thinks that he can fix a problem that has been created by Congress failing to act on our crisis situation.
Well, I agree with you in everything that you just said, and I guess because you're a doctor, my thoughts are going directly to Obamacare. Talk to us about what you see going on right now and why it's such a crisis.
Well, Obamacare is being implemented gradually, step by step, each step worse than the last, but it comes at a time when Obamacare is just more and more entrenched, and Congress has just thrown away its opportunity to defund it using its constitutional power of the purse, and is passing just symbolic laws to repeal it, knowing that the president is going to veto it. But I think that they, too, are in bed with the special interest groups, and if they really did have the power to overturn the law without a presidential veto, I doubt that they would do it.
Well, that's really disappointing, since I'm sure we, the people, didn't want this law. As a matter of fact, I remember thousands of folks going to D.C., filling the streets, filling the National Mall area, saying, kill the bill, because they didn't want it to be passed in the first place. I also remember this president encouraging Congress to pass it under the cover of night, and I don't believe there was a single bipartisan element to this. I think it was one party that put it through on the urging of the executive branch. So it's really disturbing to me to think that under public pressure that our leadership of the House and the Senate, that we the people took back, wouldn't take action. I would hope that's not true, although I'm a little skeptical myself, because, what can they do now and what are they not doing now, Doctor? Because, just because you have a president who is in favor of this doesn't mean that Congress can't act, as you pointed out, with regard to the financial implementation of this. And I think the Congressional Budget Office would be on the side of a Congress that would limit the funding on this, because I think it's certainly different than what was represented in the first place. Do you want to talk
absolutely.
About that?
It's gone well past the initial estimates. But Congress will say, but if we pass a continuing resolution so the government can continue, and we don't put in it the president's pet signature legislation, then he will not sign the bill, and the government will shut down, and the people will be angry because it's all our fault that they can't get into a national park. And so they say, well, we just can't do that. We will allow Obamacare continue to destroy our medical system and our insurance marketplace so that we don't get the blame. When really the president should have the blame if you give him the choice of funding everything else but Obamacare, and he says, well, I'm just going to not fund anything if I can't have my program, then whose fault is it?
It certainly looks like it's the president's, in my opinion. He's putting up his political agenda or his particular pet project ahead of the overall needs of the people, and he's doing his job as the president. I mean, I don't know. That's my opinion. But, it seems to me that we do have a little bit of timidness on the part of our leadership in the House and in the Senate on this, and probably other issues as well. You're not limiting yourself to Obamacare here. You're talking about illegal immigration, ISIS, terrorism, the economy. You talk about EMP, the electrical grid. What is describe to us the crises in these other areas that maybe Congress should be acting on and isn't at this point?
Well, let me talk about one that they are not mentioning at all, and that is the coming crisis in our nation's ability to get affordable electric to our people. And the poorest and most vulnerable people will be the ones who suffer most from President Obama keeping his campaign promise to make the price of electricity soar and to destroy the coal industry on which so many people depend for their jobs. And the administration's EPA is doing this through regulations that are based on terrible science, a total distortion of science, and that Congress really never authorized them to do. and Congress would not pass a law that would cause such draconian effects on our economy. And so the president just decides he's going to do it anyway using the EPA. Well, Congress could pass a law clarifying that the Clean Air Act does not apply to carbon dioxide. But will it do that? No.
Well, I can see that they could and should do that. And if they define it that way, I don't think EPA has much authority to overturn that, although I don't know. This EPA seems to just act autonomously. I mean, it's supposed to be reviewed or overseen by Congress, but I don't see that really going on.
Well, Congress could defund the EPA, but they also, I think, could pass a law saying that we will not permit their so-called clean air rule to go into effect, period, or until they release all of the documents they're hiding concerning the science, or until they can demonstrate that the benefits outweigh the costs, or that they will even demonstrate what the costs really are in an honest, straightforward fashion. Now, Congress could require that, but I suppose the administration would try to get around it, but Congress has no excuse for not passing the law.
Well, it seems to me that we have, I guess, this media outlet that leans to the left. You've got liberal rhetoric that gets a lot of airtime, especially when it comes to something like environmental issues. And, it seems like our leadership in the House and in the Senate feel intimidated when that rhetoric hits the streets or hits the airwaves or the video waves, and they buckle and they compromise instead of standing firm and responding to the rhetoric and making sense. I mean, do we perhaps undervalue the intelligence of the general public and their ability to see through the twists of, perhaps the political twist on the facts of a particular issue? Talk to me about that.
I think the media is owned by the government, and I think that Congress is terrified of the media because they see what it can do to destroy someone's reputation. And so I think they're afraid to speak up. Maybe they've got a skeleton in their closet that they don't want to come to light. But in any case, the media outlets are owned by people who have a vested interest in certain things happening, and people who don't agree with that cannot get a voice in the mainstream media, and they can easily be marginalized and turned into enemies of the people.
Well, that is a terrific problem, and I guess we have to overcome it with grassroots activity because I guess the elected officials need to be reminded who they work for and whose voice they're supposed to be carrying into government. Dr. Orient, we are certainly not finished speaking about this issue, but we do need to take a quick break to identify the station. Can you hold on for just 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Listeners, we are speaking this segment with Dr. Jane Orient of the American Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, and we're talking about the fact that we need to do something now. We can't wait till 2017, and we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNGC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all .com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone. You can also listen to us anytime on our website at CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. We'll be right back after the break with Dr. Jane Orient.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking this segment with Dr. Jane Orr of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. She's also been involved in the Public Health Committee of Pima County, Arizona's Medical Society, and she's the current president of Doctors for Disaster Preparedness. Dr. Orient, thank you so much for waiting through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Very good.
So we've been talking about what's going on in our country and generally the world, and that we really can't wait until 2017. I think we need to really, truly analyze the crisis, because there is one. We've talked a little bit about Obamacare, and you've talked about the price of electricity and how vulnerable members in the community or groups in our population are going to suffer the worst on that, and that Congress can take action in both of those areas, and due to whatever reason, political pressure, fear of the media, they're not doing so. Let's talk a little bit about Iran. You've mentioned here that, you point out this $150 billion of frozen Iranian assets, and you ask the question, if they're released, do you not think Iran will use them for terrorist training and weapons? I don't know about you, but I think they will. Talk to us about it.
I think maybe the worst feature of the Iran deal is the same thing that we saw with Obamacare, that Americans have no idea what's in it. There may be all kinds of side agreements that are secret and that Congress perhaps doesn't even see, or if they were allowed to see it, they're not allowed to tell anybody about it. Well, if this is so wonderful and that it's going to bring peace in the world, why can't we find out what's in there?
Yeah, because he doesn't want the criticism that comes along with it. And at this point, I don't think the media, especially on this issue, is going to just blindly defend him. I think, we've got a president who's pretty savvy on how to present things clandestinely and then, play the victim. when there's any kind of criticism about it. And the less information he gives, I guess, the better. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the worldwide impact of this agreement? I mean, we look at this huge refugee crisis that's going on with ISIS and terrorism in the region, and the fact that it's now, we've got a pope that's saying all of Europe needs to absorb these refugees, that it's the humanitarian and the Christian thing to do. And, we're not addressing what's causing the refugee crisis in the first place. If we don't address what's going on with ISIS and terrorism, aren't we just kind of giving them land over which they'll have control by absorbing the refugees and doing nothing? What is it that Congress should be doing?
Congress needs to secure our borders, and I think that Congress ought to be able to do something to keep the president from allowing an invading force to come to our country. I mean, certainly refugees who are fleeing for their lives with their families are very sympathetic. But if you look at pictures of the refugees who are coming there, it looks like they're mostly young men. What are they leaving the women and children behind in a war-torn country? And they're coming with a little backpack. They look, pretty comfortable and well-fed. They don't look like they're carrying their entire worldly possessions on their back. And once they get here, they're getting huge welfare benefits, or almost all of them are getting some sort of welfare benefits. Certainly, this looks like something other than just a humanitarian crisis. If we've looked at, the sort of people who are fleeing for their lives in previous wars.
Yeah, I do see that there's a bit of a disproportion there. And even today there's an article out, it was put out about Germany, that there was a refugee camp where women and children inside the camp are being victimized by men inside the camp. And then, of course, German authorities are being asked to do something about that. It's really a logistical nightmare. And how can you tell the difference between a plainclothed, shall we say, sleeper terrorist who's among that population? Are you letting the enemy in your front door because you think he or she is a refugee? It's a big problem. So even if we do secure our borders, but we agree to take some of these refugees, I don't know if that's really a secure border. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're just absolutely right, that if these people do want to flee, then why are they being dispersed throughout the country into any place, maybe next to even sensitive industries or facilities? Why don't we give them a place to stay, an enclave where they will be safe, but they will not be free to roam through the country and set off bombs?
Yeah, this is really disturbing, to say the least, but it does describe a crisis that Congress should be acting on, and it shouldn't be hiding behind any excuse that the president that thinks differently than they do. You have to put the people's voice forward, and I'm hoping that perhaps by exposing this and having you talk about it and all of us do the same, that perhaps we can encourage Congress to go ahead and take the action that they need to. We have to talk a little bit about the most vulnerable persons in our population, and those would be the unborn. Now, it says in your preview to the article that, before 2017, Planned Parenthood will probably abort more than 500,000 American babies. And Congress certainly can and has the power to take action about that right away. There's a big push right now to defund Planned Parenthood, given the barbarism that's been exposed by way of these selling of baby parts. I mean, the most recent video, video number 10, was actually released, I think today, late yesterday or early today, and it's exposed that they're selling fresh, and they talk about eyeballs, and they talk about gonads, and I know you're a doctor and you're used to those terms, and it's just, these are babies. How can you not identify them as babies? Congress can take action right now in defunding that. That doesn't even put Planned Parenthood out of business. It just takes my tax dollars away. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, why are we concerned about putting Planned Parenthood out of business? Why should we allow an organization that flaunts the law for example, refuses to report sexually abused minors who are victims of statutory rape by definition if they're pregnant, flaunts the law concerning human organ trafficking and the need to obtain informed consent about that, or that just whether they're, even if they are obeying the letter of the law, are killing off at least a fifth of our population, and particularly black and other minority babies. Why aren't the candidates speaking up about what a totally racist organization this is, that it's killing off more black people than slavery ever did, and that it is doing so in ways that is completely callous about not just the babies, but about the women whose lives are maybe lost or ruined as a result of this procedure?
Yeah, I agree. I think they should be doing all of that. I think the first step is to at least not contribute tax dollars to an organization that engages barbarism and thumbs their nose at the law the way that these videos have exposed. And, you know, it certainly befuddles me that the entire videos can be released by the Center for Medical Progress, and yet the liberal left and the media outlets are getting away with twisting this by saying that the videos have been doctored. How can you continue to say that as a responsible journalist when you know that the entire video was actually released at the same time? Yes, the doctored videos are more widely circulated, but if you compare them with the actual raw footage, they're accurate.
Well, I think this is so hypocritical on the part of the media, because these videographers are very good at their job, and they're using a lot of very effective techniques to make the footage compelling and to make it easily understandable. And, you know, you look at the way what television distorts in everything that it reports, and they are criticizing the Center for Medical Progress for just doing an effective job of highlighting the important parts. I mean, that is just, I mean, people might call it chutzpah, that they can just be so blatant about criticizing other people when what they're doing is not only even more effective, but actually distorts the message instead of emphasizing it.
Well, this has been a terrific pleasure. I'm so glad to have spoken with you today about this. I'm glad you're on the radio with us to share with our listeners. But we need to wrap up. So tell our listeners where they can follow your work and where we can continue to pressure Congress to try to get work done.
Well, the AAPS website is aapsonline.org, and you can sign up free to receive our email alerts where we might send out our press releases and our op-ed pieces, as well as just information about what's going on in Congress and the courts.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Jane Orient of the American Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, AAPS. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Keep up the great work and come back soon.
Thank you very much.
Listeners, that was Dr. Jane Orient of AAPS, Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, and this is Conservative Commandos Radio. We are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the NPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all .com. And now you can listen to our show anytime on our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Rick Trader and Anna Little will be right back with you after the break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999 11. Our next guest is with us, and the honor of the introduction is mine. Robert Knight, senior fellow and policy expert, was a journalist for 15 years, including 7 as editor and writer at the Los Angeles Times, a regular weekly columnist for the Washington Times, townhall.com, and onenewsnow.com. Robert was a media fellow in 1989 to 1990 at the Hoover Institute. He held senior positions with Heritage, Family Research Council, Concerned Women for America, Media Research Center, and Coral Ridge Ministries, now Truth in Action. He's authored 5 books, co-authored another, and written hundreds of reports and articles, and he's appeared on nearly all major television and radio news and talk programs. And now we are welcoming Robert Knight back to Conservative Commando's radio show. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, Anna, thanks for the intro.
Well, you're welcome. You've earned it. And I want to talk to you about your Washington Times article. I love the title, Bernie's Siren Song of Socialism.
Yeah, it's about Bernie Sanders and his appeal to young people, particularly the millennials, who are polling heavily in his favor. And the point of my column is that it's because the millennials don't understand what socialism really means. It's covered in warm, gauzy terms, and it's words like equality and fairness and tolerance and so forth. But what it really boils down to is government force that takes away from some people and gives to others, and that's what has to happen, because socialism is all about redistribution. It's not just about making people better off. And a lot of people don't understand that. They fall for it. Let me read you a definition of it. Democratic socialism, which is what Bernie says he's for, is a political ideology advocating a democratic political system alongside a socialist economic system involving a combination of political democracy with social ownership of the means of production. And I've been debating with a bunch of people on the Times website in the comments section, and I've said that there is no freedom without private property. Social ownership means organized theft of people's work product and ideas, and that's what they don't seem to understand.
Well, I think beyond that, we've got this demonization by the media and the left of capitalism and corporations, and when the two go together, it seems to think that when we're talking about private, that you're retaining the rights to your own work product and the ability to support your family with it, they're equating that with the abuses at the extreme of the wealthy corporate owners. And, you know, I think I want to point out a comment that you've actually included in your article. The late Joseph Sobran said that socialism is forever judged by its promises and supposed possibilities, while capitalism is judged by its worst cases. And I think that's exactly what's going on here. Do you agree?
Yeah, and Sobran also said it makes no difference that socialism's actual record is terribly bloody.
And it is.
That's, yeah, all over the world. Because it's so unnatural for people to say, you know, I think I'll devote all the fruits of my labor and ideas, not to my family, not to my community, but to whatever these people above me think it belongs to. Well, that's slavery. One definition of slavery is 100% taxation. And if the state owns the means of production, that means they own everything that matters, then you're a slave to the state. And no matter how nice they try to make it, that involves using government force, because it's unnatural to work for other people you don't even know.
Well, here's a suggestion. You know, we're talking about the millennials, and they are the ones that seem to be flocking to Bernie Sanders, and I can tell you that because I've got some millennials living in my household. They're conservative, but they are coming home shaking their heads at what they're hearing at some of the music concerts they're going to from their friends and the ones that are actually hosting these groups, where they're talking about, you know, let's go for Bernie, and my guys and gals are turning around saying, what? That's not a very good idea. You know, I think these millennials, if you told them that in the classroom, because a lot of them are still in school, they're either finishing up high school or they're in the throes of college, if they're on the older end of this age group, they're possibly out trying to look for a job or thinking about continuing their education because there aren't any. Talk about the classroom. I've worked hard. I've done my homework. I've studied instead of going out and drinking and partying and doing whatever else people do. And I've earned that A. But, the guy next to me, maybe he's earned an F. But, we have to take care of each other because we have to be all social. I'll give half my A to the guy sitting next to me with the F so he gets a C, and I'll get a C, and that's okay, right? I don't think a single millennial would agree with that.
That's a wonderful example, Anna, and there have been people who have interviewed students who have strongly supported socialism and said, yeah, it's the way to go, it's fair, and then the interviewer said, well, tell you what, what'd you get in your last class? And they said, well, I got an A. And he says, well, I think it's unfair that you got an A, and don't you think it's fairer if everybody is given a C, because then it's all equal? And suddenly they got huffy, and they go, well, wait a minute, I worked hard for that A. He says, well, you see the problem with socialism? What it does is rewards people for not doing what they ought to be doing, and it's at the expense of people who do put in the hours, who do put in the work. It's a very corrupt system, and it's based on one big flaw in human character, and that is envy. You see all these slogans appealing to people's sense of envy. They want something that somebody else has, and they want somebody big enough to take it away from that other person, and that would be the government.
Do you think it's also fueled, too, by the situation these millennials are in? Look, a lot of them, they've come out of households where their parents have done well for themselves, whatever walk of life they chose career-wise. They've done well for themselves, but they're struggling now. And the kids are coming out. They're trying to go for college, but they're realizing they really can't afford it. Their parents can't afford it. They can't find a job. They can't find a career. And they're feeling kind of desperate. So when Bernie Sanders comes along and says, I'll give you free college education, I'll give you a means besides whatever job you can't find to support yourself and take care of yourself, do you think maybe they're just kind of feeding into that desperation?
I think so. And a lot of people are heavily in debt from college. And they want forgiveness of student loans. And if they want to continue their education, the idea of having a free education at somebody else's expense sounds really good to them. President Obama has come out recently and said he wants universal free community college of at least 2 years. Now, who's going to pay for that?
I think that's an excellent question. Now, time flies when we're having fun. I've got to take a quick break to identify the station. Can you hold on for just 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. Listeners, we are speaking right now with Robert Knight, Senior Fellow and Policy Expert, and we're talking about Bernie's siren song of socialism. But we've got to tell you about our station. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. They are all .com. And now you can listen to our show anytime on our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Rick Trader and Anna Little will be right back with you, speaking with Robert Knight after the break.
They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking this segment with Robert Knight, Senior Fellow and Policy Expert. He is talking to us today about Bernie's siren song of socialism, and we've been discussing the millennials and the surprise that we're finding that they are thinking about supporting Bernie because they don't understand socialism. So, Robert, thank you so much for holding through the break. We do appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate being on your program, Anna.
Well, you know, we're talking about the millennials, and I think it would make sense to talk about what their four major policy areas come to be. And this is part of your article, and it seems like there's a USA Today college contributor, Thomas Dowling, and he was citing research by the Panetta Institute of Public Policy and the Pew Research Center. So this is pretty good information. The millennials will be looking at four major policy areas come 2016. The first is independence from the Washington establishment. Second is support for climate change mitigation policies. And the third is job creation. And the fourth is student debt reform. Now, you talked about student debt reform and how Bernie Sanders is offering, the retirement or the freedom from the debt. And then I talked a little bit about the fact that they're looking for jobs and can't find them. We talked about desperation. But I'm surprised to think that people who want independence from the Washington establishment are going to be supporting a man who's a socialist. Can you explain that to me? I'm confused about it.
Well, they see the establishment as rich corporations manipulating Washington politicians. But Bernie Sanders comes along and says, aha, I'm going to punish the 1%. I'm going to redistribute what these wealthy capitalists are earning and break the power of the politicians that consort with them. Of course, to do that, he has to expand government beyond anything we've seen outside of, say, the Soviet Union or other socialist countries. They own everything. And there's, you have to ask the millennials, you want independence from the Washington establishment, and yet Bernie Sanders would create the greatest, biggest, most monopolistic Washington establishment of all. Because when the government runs everything, there's nowhere to turn otherwise. They monopolize power. They're the only ones with the guns and the power of taxation. That's a lot more power than, the Macy's setting prices or General Motors making cars. I mean, it's telling everybody what to do or else. So when you hand government more power, you're really giving up some power of your own. The millennials, many of them don't see how it would affect them and their families in the years to come. And I think they're being short-sighted. And that's not an unusual stance for somebody very young, because they're in the moment. They're more worried about fashions I don't mean clothing fashions. I mean fashionable thought. At the time, a lot of them are hearing about things for the first time in college and so forth. But as they get older, they pay taxes, they have kids, they suddenly realize, wait a minute, I don't want a big government not only confiscating much of my income, but telling me how to raise my kids. It's a marvelous conservative antidote, getting married and having kids.
Well, I can't agree with you more. My producer, Rick Trader, has some questions for you. Rick, take it away.
Yeah, Robert, we're speaking with Robert Knight about his article on the Washington Times. Robert, great to speak with you again. Robert, I want to change gears a little bit, and then I want to try to weave things back together again. Last May 10th, to be exact, you wrote an article, and that article was entitled, "The Media Message on Deflategate is that honesty is only for everyday Americans." Robert, do you remember that article?
Oh, I do. I was keying on Tom Brady and other things in society that indicate that telling the truth isn't as valued as it used to be.
All right, and something else. So we had you on the Conservative Commandos radio show to talk about that article, and I want to play a little piece of audio from that conversation that we had with you. So I'm going to put you in on hold. See a little bit of that interview. Robert, are you a betting man?
Oh, not really.
Well, how about betting me a sandwich? Someday we'll get together. And if this is reduced to 2 games, you owe me a sandwich. If it's not, I'll owe you a sandwich.
I think that's fair enough, Rick. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
But go either way. They realize the country needs a lesson here.
And that's what I'm saying.
And politicians behaving like this and nothing happening to them. One thing I didn't put in the column, and I wish I had, was Harry Reid being confronted with the fact that he lied. That was a bald-faced lie. He made it up out of whole cloth. Was caught in it. Nothing happened. And when he was asked about it fairly recently, he says, well, he didn't win, did he? In other words, the ends justify the means. Talk about a cynical attitude. And, here's one of the top politicians in America.
Right.
Just saying whatever you do to win is what counts. It's nothing else.
Well, you know, Robert, that one of my co-hosts here on Conservative Commandos radio show is Sharon Engel. Sorry about that. We'll bring you right back in. All right, Robert Knight, do you remember that conversation? I guess we were both wrong.
Yeah, I guess so. I was thinking you're playing this to collect on the bet, and I can't even remember what I bet.
Well, we bet a sandwich. You said that Tom Brady would be, he would get his 4-game suspension. I said they would reduce it to 2. However, we had a judge that totally knocked off his suspension. He got no suspension. And what I wanted to ask you about that, Robert, and by the way, I'd be happy to buy you a sandwich at any time, is the media's overwhelming response in support of Tom Brady. You know, Robert, it seems like what is up is now down. What is good or used to be good is now bad. And here we've got the media praising Tom Brady for cheating, and you got the millennials trying to your latest article, trying to show how socialism is so great when it's capitalism that made our country great to begin with. I mean, what's going on in the country, Robert?
Well, I think I've mentioned miseducation, and that, people have been brainwashed since their early days in these government-run schools, and then right through college. And the mindset is a socialistic mindset, that envy is a good thing, that human nature is really good if you only have the right socialistic system. This is at the heart of the socialistic mistake. It's a misreading of human nature. We're all flawed. We're all deeply flawed. We have good in us, but we also have a lot of bad. And the socialists don't. They say that, well, the only reason you have the bad is we haven't taken over everything and brainwashed you the way we could to make you more perfect. So they put all kinds of trust in government institutions, and our founders felt very differently. They didn't trust government institutions because they're run by flawed men. And you don't want anybody getting too much power, which is why, they had that twin understanding of human nature. One, we're deeply valued because of God. God created us, therefore human life is sacred, and therefore we should treat people well. But two, people are flawed, they're sinners, so nobody should get too much power over his fellow man. Those two things really help form their conception of governance, and that's how they turned out this marvelous Constitution, which goes out of its way to limit government power. It puts a check on government power. The liberals and the socialists, on the other hand, see it as a blank check. If it doesn't specifically forbid it, then the government can do whatever it wants. And that's a total misreading of the intent of that document.
Robert Knight, we want to thank you so much for joining us once again here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our listeners where they can read all your articles.
Well, they can go to theacru.org. That's theacru.org as opposed to the ACLU. And they could also go to the Washington Times website. And if they do, I hope they'd leave a comment, because the trolls are always attacking my articles, and it's nice when I get a little support.
Well, your support comes here in the Conservative Commandos radio show. We enjoy your articles. We enjoy having you with us.
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you, Anna.
Take care. God bless. And I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our other guest, Hans von Spakovsky and Dr. Gene Orient. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio. And please stay tuned for Graceland. Coming up next on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Hey folks, Slickery Trigger here. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about Rebel Road Tactical. As a defensive pistol instructor, I've had the opportunity to observe many different holster designs and configurations. And one thing is clear. Many of my students won't carry a pistol. Or worse, they'll carry one without a holster at all. Holster designers aren't making holsters for normal people. It seems that most holsters are either an expensive piece of gear designed for Rambo or a piece that doesn't fit or function the way real people need it to fit and function. So, like any good Texan, I decided to learn to form kydex and design one myself, one that would fit the needs of average people. The result is the Rebel Road Tactical CRT Modular. The CRT stands for Carry, Range, and Training. Its thin and lightweight curved design minimizes printing and is adjustable to fit just right for superior comfort and function. Check us out after the show at rebelroadconcealed.blogspot.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.